Let's not go through with this marriage." When I said that, Dad looked baffled. "Wait, what? We were just having a nice conversation. What's bothering you?" I'm stunned by Dad's response. "Dad, didn't you notice anything? I thought he would have realized who that guy really was." "My name is Krista. I'm a 24-year-old office worker. I live at home with my parents. Dad works for a pharmaceutical company and Mom is a homemaker. Dad doesn't make sales trips to hospitals anymore like he used to, but if invited to golf, he's more than happy to go. Last week at a golf event, Dad got into a conversation with Mr. Hallman, the CEO and chief of a private hospital, and they talked about their kids. Mr. Hallman has a second son named Ronnie, who's 44 and still single. Despite coming from a family of doctors, Ronnie isn't one. He works in game development from home. "How about setting up a date between our kids?" Mr. Hallman suggested. Dad was hesitant. He thought about refusing because Ronnie and I have a considerable age gap. But Mr. Hallman insisted. "Age doesn't matter once you're an adult." Eventually, Dad caved in, and it was decided that I would meet Ronnie. "So, will you at least meet him?" "I really don't want to meet a stranger." "He's from a good family. It should be fine." Despite my reluctance, Dad looked concerned. The truth is, for the past year, I've been stalked by someone suspicious, and recently, underwear from my yard got stolen. I felt in danger and had just reported it to the police. Both Dad and I were hoping to drop the subject, but Mr. Hallman was incredibly persistent. "Let's do it as soon as possible," he pushed, and before I knew it, I was meeting Ronnie the following Friday evening. The venue was a renowned restaurant known for its exquisite cuisine. Since Mr. Hallman was busy during the day, it was going to be a dinner meeting. Dad and I were meeting Ronnie and Mr. Hallman. On the day, Ronnie looked much younger than his 44 years. He wasn't necessarily handsome, but he seemed clean-cut. His conversation was solid, making it hard to believe he was still single. "Isn't it just that you have high standards, and that's why you're not married, Mr. Ronnie?" Dad also joked about it. "Ronnie isn't usually so talkative or well-groomed. He's making an effort for Miss Krista." Mr. Hallman replied with a wry smile, and Ronnie also smiled shyly. "I was surprised when Dad told me. I never thought Dad would arrange a meeting with Miss Krista. It must be fate. I can't change our age difference, but I thought I'd at least match the appearance." Ronnie added, "Something felt off." I realized both Mr. Hallman and Ronnie were discussing everything as if the marriage was already decided. When Ronnie mentioned, "I'd like to build our new home halfway between both our parents' houses," Mr. Hallman chimed in. "How about near the hospital? We have land there." Both Dad and I awkwardly smiled, not knowing what to do. "Here, Krista, offer Mr. Ronnie some more drinks." Dad tried to steer the conversation by offering Ronnie a drink. I also went along and offered the next round. "So, Mr. Hallman, you were saying last week that you got a new golf driver. How's it treating you?" "Oh, it's fantastic. I'll lend it to you sometime." Dad's strategy worked like a charm. Mr. Hallman and Dad started getting into a conversation about golf. They often share golf equipment, it seems. Just then, I got a direct approach from Ronnie. "Krista, thank you for today. I'm happy you decided to marry me." "What?" I was stunned and questioned what he said. He suddenly got way too familiar. Unbelievable. I haven't decided to marry anyone, let alone him. He doesn't seem like a bad guy, but I've just met him, and have no romantic feelings. Ronnie didn't notice my discomfort. He seemed pretty tipsy, and looked at me with ulterior motives. "How about we go to the beach next time?" "Sorry, what? I couldn't hear you." I pretended not to hear him, but I heard him loud and clear. Right as I was pondering what to do next, "What do you like to do, Miss Krista? Do you also play golf with your dad?" A cheerful and tipsy Mr. Hallman started talking to me. Saved by the bell. I actually enjoy going for walks by myself." I dodged Ronnie's question and changed the subject. The suspicious person who had been following me hasn't been caught, and I haven't been able to go for walks lately, but any other topic is fine at this point. "You don't seem sunburned for someone who enjoys walks." Elderly men sure know how to make a comment that gets under your skin. "I wear a hat," I replied, smiling. "A hat, huh? That's stylish." Mr. Hallman had no idea I was annoyed. "Krista loves hats. She has quite a collection." My dad chimed in, steering the conversation. I took this as a perfect moment to pick up my silverware. Just then, a delicious-looking fish dish was served. I decided to focus on my meal to distract myself. What's the name of that green hat Krista has? Darn it, I can't remember. Apparently, Dad can't remember the name of my hat. Come on, if you're getting old, what does that make me? My apologies, that was a slip of the tongue. Both men laughed and then turned to me. Krista, what was the name of that hat again? I forget. Just as they asked, I had just put food in my mouth. I was rushing to swallow when... That's a newsboy cap, right? Green really suits Krista. Ronnie answered for some reason. What? How does he know? We just met. I almost choked on my food. Could this guy be... Dad, seemingly oblivious, answered, Yes! A newsboy cap! I can never remember it, but it suits her so well. She looks adorable. Mr. Hallman didn't seem bothered. A newsboy cap? Never heard of it. Women's fashion is complicated. I'm good with medical terms, though. You're impressive, Mr. Hallman. Dad, you might know it as a hunting cap. The conversation continued, but my mind went blank. All I wanted was to escape from this place as soon as possible. I've gotta call the police. I put on a smile, suppressing my inner turmoil as I get through the arranged meeting. As soon as I see Mr. Hallman and Ronnie get into a taxi, I let out a huge sigh of relief. Krista, you tired? Dad, a bit tipsy, smiles at me. The forced smile I've been wearing vanishes, and I become serious. Dad, let's definitely say no to this marriage. My straightforwardness leaves Dad puzzled. Wait, you were just having a good time chatting. What's wrong? Is it his age? He was a decent guy, wasn't he? Didn't you like him, Krista? I'm surprised at Dad's words. Dad, didn't you notice anything? I assumed Dad had also figured out who that man really was. Notice what? The hat. The cap. Don't you find that odd? Huh? You mean Ronnie knowing the name of the hat? He's young. It's not strange for him to know. Frustrated, I explain again. How did he know the name of my favorite hat when he was told it's green? How could he say it looks good on me when we've just met? Good point. Could Ronnie be that suspicious person? I nod at Dad's murmur. I'm sure of it. I don't know how he knows about me, but otherwise, how could he know about the cap? Before, I couldn't recognize him because he was wearing sunglasses and a disposable mask, but I'm sure Ronnie is the same suspicious person who's been following me. Probably the underwear thief, too. As soon as I say this, Dad exclaims, That makes sense! I thought something was off! Dad, you didn't notice until now. Frustrated, I speak and Dad tries to defend himself. No, listen! It's Mr. Hallman! I was wondering why he suddenly suggested an arranged marriage during golf. It was unusual, and they were pressuring us, which isn't typical for these things. Maybe Mr. Hallman knew his son was interested in you. It's more than interest. It's malicious. I was going to say no anyway, but definitely not to a suspicious person. So Dad, please firmly decline the arranged marriage. Dad agrees wholeheartedly when I request again. That night, I contact the local police officer. I found out who the suspicious person and the underwear thief are. Although it's not enough for proof, the officer promises to increase patrols in the area and look into it. The next morning, Dad calls Mr. Hallman to decline. He doesn't mention the suspicious person, only saying, the timing wasn't right this time. The call lasted over an hour, and Mr. Hallman tried hard to convince him. After hanging up, Dad looks drained and says, Mr. Hallman understood. I feel relieved, but that afternoon, something happened. As we're having a laid-back Saturday afternoon snack, the doorbell rings frantically. And not just once, it's repeatedly rung, and then there are loud bangs on the front door. This can't be good. I hurriedly checked the front door monitor, and there was Ronnie, right on the screen. Yikes! I couldn't help but shout. Both Dad and Mom stood up and looked at the monitor. It was clear, even through the screen, that Ronnie was livid. Mom, call the police! It's that guy again! Dad calmly instructed Mom. Mom nodded and started making the call on her cell phone. Just when I noticed there was no sound of knocking, a figure passed by the living room window. Ronnie had trespassed from the front entrance to our yard, and now he was in front of our living room. We could see each other plainly because the curtains were open. The weather was good, so I had laundry out, and we hadn't locked the window. Krista, I've come for you! Ronnie shouted upon seeing me. Dad stepped in front of me to shield me. It looked like Ronnie was about to force his way into our home. Krista, stay in a safe place with Mom! As I started to comply with Dad's instruction, Ronnie yelled again. Krista! You can't escape me! We are destined to marry! Destined? I felt a surge of anger at Ronnie's words. I stopped and turned back. Mom had already called the police, who should arrive any minute. Ronnie had been tormenting me for nearly a year. He was a suspicious person. I remembered all the days I had been scared, and my anger boiled over. Don't make stuff up! Who would marry you? You're committing a despicable crime. You're a grown man, stalking a woman 20 years younger and stealing her underwear. Aren't you ashamed? I was sure Ronnie was behind it all, so I yelled. Ronnie seemed taken aback and started making excuses. No, you've got it wrong. I've been watching over you, so you're not in danger. You left your underwear out to dry because you wanted to thank me, right? I know how you feel, Krista. Gross! That's not it at all! You trespassed and stole it! Do you have any idea how terrifying it is to be stalked for months by a man I don't know? My laundry was essentially hidden in the yard. You'd have to trespass to steal anything. I have been scared to even go out into the yard since my underwear was stolen. This man ruined my peaceful daily life. You call me a criminal? I'm not trespassing. We're destined. We're promised fiancés. I was at a loss for words. This guy is delusional. Nothing will get through to him. Mom also spat out, Stop talking nonsense! Can't you differentiate between reality and delusion? Dad angrily stated, Ronnie, just because you're infatuated doesn't mean you can do anything you like. Stalking and theft are crimes. You're trespassing right now. As parents, we can't forgive your actions. We won't let our beloved daughter fall prey to a criminal like you. Mom yelled while pointing her phone at Ronnie. I felt truly grateful for my parents who were defending me. I'll be clear. I will never marry you. I can't possibly like you. From now on, never come into my sight again. I declared firmly while glaring at Ronnie. But you came to the matchmaking event. Don't you love me? I thought you wanted to marry me. Ronnie could only mutter those words, his eyes wide. Look, I only went because my dad was badgered into it by Mr. Hallman. I was planning on saying no from the start. Upon hearing my assertive words, Ronnie collapsed onto his knees. Within moments, the cops, who had been alerted, arrived and took a now subdued Ronnie away. The reason my mom was pointing her cell phone was to let the police hear everything that was happening, thanks to hands-free mode. It helped paint the full picture. Days later, Ronnie admitted to both the underwear theft and stalking me. Upon questioning Ronnie and talking to those involved, it turns out that he learned about me through my dad's golfing acquaintance with Mr. Hallman. Apparently, a family photo of us was in the inner pocket of a golf bag my dad had lent to Mr. Hallman. Ronnie had fallen head over heels with me from that photo. Apparently, Ronnie had pictures of me, taken without my knowledge, plastered all over his room. One day, Mr. Hallman's wife stumbled upon these photos in their son's room and consulted her husband. Recognizing my dad in the photo, Mr. Hallman identified me as the daughter of a golf buddy. Mr. Hallman thought it would be better to set us up in an arranged marriage than to let Ronnie get arrested for stalking, all without informing us. What a family! To prevent this from escalating, I received a generous settlement and had them promise never to let Ronnie near me again. It seems Mr. and Mrs. Hallman were unaware that Ronnie had taken the underwear thefts that far. They decided to admit Ronnie into a mental hospital. What was supposed to be a mere arranged meeting turned into a huge ordeal, but everything's settled now. I was finally free from the person who had been causing me so much anxiety, and I could enjoy my walks once again.